I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond, shrimp tank. When it's sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Want to put it all together, this is big things. Doing big things, chasing big dreams. Yeah, it's all real, this life's all that it seems. All the chicks scream, all the dudes yell. This is just what I do, and I do it well. With the flow fresher than the new shoe smell. Going through hell, but homie, keep going. You know the saying, you can reap what you sow in. So I don't chase girls, I just chase dreams. Play the same game, but we ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Roadie 2016. Like a phone to die, put me in charge. I'm a general from the front, I'ma lead the charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode here on the Shrimp Tank, powered by Celsius Beverage. This is your first time tuning in. You catch all these amazing episodes up on our website, shrimptankpodcast.com. And of course, we are now streaming live every single week right around 1 p.m. at Shrimp Tank Boca over on YouTube and even our Instagram account these days. This is the podcast where street smarts and book smarts collide, and we get to collaborate with the best university down here in South Florida, the Florida Atlantic University. And I got one of the best co-hosts out there, the Shrimp Doctor, Dr. Roland Kidwell. So,
hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
So tell us what's new at FAU.
Well, I don't know what's new at FAU, but I can tell you on Monday, my book came out. It's called Dysfunction and Deviance Across Family Firms, Varying Reflections on the Dark Side. I worked on this book when I was on sabbatical in Belgium, and I was happy to see it just pop up. Coincidentally, it just came out
Where do we get this
week.
book? Where do we
Well,
get it?
check it out on Amazon. It's published by Palgrave, Springer Nature. So, some of those
like
places.
every author, your number one bestseller? I feel like
yeah.
Everyone I meet that puts out a book, their number one bestseller.
I didn't really write it to sell copies, but I know I'm sure Kevin, the book Kevin and I worked on, that I'm sure that's a bestseller because students have to buy that one.
Yes. And any events we should know about that are happening at the Florida Atlantic University that
well, there
audience
are
might want to attend?
There are some business pitch competitions coming up. It's going to be probably in April, but into March. I think it's March 28th, something along those lines. I haven't got the specific dates on it, but there are student competitions toward the end of March now. And then the next night, there's going to be a big celebration out at Tech Runway. We're going to have the Wave Tech Runway class, next incoming class, outgoing class. We're going to have the winners of the business pitch competition. So it's going to be March 28th. I know I can't go because that's when I'm teaching my class, unfortunately. But then the previous
class, it's free. Why not just bring
It's an idea. It's an idea. They Zoom, so maybe we'll see if we can Zoom them in there. We'll see if that works. And, we're just basically getting ready for spring break. Everybody's excited about that. That's why everybody's chomping at the bit in here. I think, spring break is starting at the end of the week. So I hope everybody shows up on Friday.
Before we get into our guest today, I do have a question on that comment that you made about Zoom. What is FAU's take about just forcing students to join in person? Because I feel like everything in this world is like, well, you could do either or. The same thing goes with the workforce. And I just see like there's a problem going on. Like we're raising a lot of people to be like, you can play video games with your friends online, but you don't get to high-five them when something happens in the video game. And then additionally, just like all those interactions in person that happen at work or at college, right? When we were just in the classroom with the students, like just them seeing me, I'm able to take my iPhone out. I'm able to show them what we're doing on the Shrimp Tank or up on a screen. And I just feel like, a lot of people are missing out with that human connection side of things. And I just wonder from FAU's point of view is like, will they go the other direction, just start forcing?
Well, there's been a strong emphasis to start back in the classroom.
Yes.
So the emphasis here in Boca is on in-person learning. And the class I'm teaching is actually in Davie, but most of the students are in Boca. So think of all the energy we're saving by not having them drive to Davie to take the class. So that's the rationale for that one.
Okay.
And then the other ones, basically people want to take classes online. You can take classes online at a premium. You pay more tuition. But there's definitely an emphasis here in the Boca campus to bring the undergrads back into the classroom as well as graduate students. So,
okay.
So that's happening.
I like to hear that. And I'm excited. what we're doing here with the students with an entrepreneurship class, and what you're doing in the class where you break them up into teams, and then other entrepreneurs that have been on the shrimp tank are then doing class projects with them. But specifically this show, I love that this semester that we have students sitting in, and the other students are in the classroom watching and really learning from our entrepreneurs, and really getting, the behind the scenes view of what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Because lots of times, it is talked about on Instagram, but they only show a highlight reel, right? And TikTok, and the truths come out on the show. So I'm really interested to see, really what comes out of this assignment that they're all doing, and really how we could even make the show a lot better in the future. So let's jump right into our guest today. This is the podcast, where we get to interview the best and brightest entrepreneurs from South Florida, really finding the do's and don'ts. So Chad, why don't you tell everyone about your business and what you guys are all about, and we'll jump right into kind of all the fine details.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for having me.
For sure.
So yeah, I work at Darrow Everett. Darrow Everett is a business law firm. We have offices in 7 states. So New York, Florida, Boston, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, and did I say Tennessee?
Mm-hmm.
I did. Okay. I don't know if that adds up to 7, but we have them in 7 states. We have a little bit over 40 attorneys, and about with staff a little bit over 70. And I've been at the firm since for 8 years now. And I started off as of counsel there in our corporate department, and I've grown from of counsel to a partner, as well as a chief growth officer that oversees all the marketing efforts for the firm, as well as the head of the corporate department. So our firm specializes, as I said, in a wide range of law. I mean, we're a full service law firm, but we do a lot in the M&A space, private equity, and also commercial real estate.
So law has become more entrepreneurial. You have to go out and market to get clients.
Oh yeah,
to be involved. How long? That's been going on for a while, I assume.
It's always been like that.
What are some new things happening in that space in terms of entrepreneurship by law firms?
Well, I think law firms and lawyers, and often professionals, I mean, here with doctors too, are we slow to adapt technology, right? Particularly you hear about artificial intelligence, et cetera, for whatever ethical or professional considerations, or just because, that old school mentality. The one thing I love about our law firm is it's actually more edgy. We had a full technology-based firm prior to COVID. I have the ability to work remote for the past 8 years, always have. Even before COVID, I was ready to go, had teams set up. We have Citrix servers. Every lawyer in the law firm has laptops. There is office. We do have physical space, but we have the ability to work wherever, whenever, however we want, and we definitely try to leverage technology as much as we can in our practice. So, yeah, I mean, I think.
And I could already see you're not the traditional attorney that walks in here, right? There's no suit and tie.
No.
Right. I'm seeing Nikes on, so kind of tell us how you're a little different, right? You have the most important role at the firm, right? Growing the firm, right? You can't bring on more attorneys. You're at 40 right now. You can't get to 100 without more clients.
No,
right.
Course.
And, marketing is everything today, right?
Yeah, content generation.
Right. We have a podcast here. Podcast is, is of course a form of marketing. So dive deeper on, how you are different as yourself, but also as a brand as well.
Yeah. So how I'm different is, I don't think I ever really wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
So I was actually bartending at college, and it was great. I wanted to stay and do that forever. I mean, I got cash every night. It was amazing, having a great time. And I got into law school. I told my parents, I'm just going to stay and be a bartender. They're like, no, you're not. So I went to law school, and it actually was always intriguing to me because I like the fact that everything we do in our lives is connected, right, to the legal profession, in my opinion, right? So, and I like the business side of it. So, prior to this current firm that I'm at, I had worked in different environments, and the one thing that I learned is I didn't like being a lawyer, right? So, but when I started at this law firm, I'm like, damn, we practice law differently here. We want to learn our client's business. We become entrenched in their business, and I got to get the business side of it, which is how I got in my role of chief growth officer. So
I want to dive deeper into that though, because everyone says they're different, but there has to be something more detailed. Like what makes you different? Not just a different email, not a different logo, right? Not just a different look. It has to be the whole vibe. So dive deeper. Why are you guys that different than other law firms? Because I see a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right there, like it's the typical like 95. Okay, obviously those are more the injury attorneys,
Yeah.
right?
I don't think it's anything more like, listen, I think our marketing strategy is different than what you see with other law firms, like the content generation. But as it relates to the attorneys that we have at our firm, we really do become more vested in our clients. Like we work with a lot of people on the other side of us that they just do a deal. They want to get the deal done and move on to the next deal. You know what I mean? So, actually how I met Sydney was through one of our prior clients, right? That I became vested with. We were like their outside general counsel. I knew all the ins and outs of their business, and we were able to predict problems before they happened that were business problems, not necessarily legal. And that's why we were invaluable. We worked with them for years.
Gotcha. Roland.
So how did you kind of develop? Do you feel like you've developed as an entrepreneur in this in terms of the kinds of things you do in marketing and so forth? Did you ever have a business or think about starting a business?
So my family has always been entrepreneurs. My mom had multiple companies. I just helped her sell hers through as a lawyer on the south side. Yeah. she still paid the attorney's fees, but no, so my entire life I was surrounded by entrepreneurs. My grandfather who passed away, but he was my hero. He started multiple businesses, and I always remember growing up. And he just instilled in all his grandkids, you got to work hard, right? It's for what you want. But you essentially, he always used to say, find a need and fill it. Right. And that was something we were raised by, in our entire family. And I think that's what, I think there's different entrepreneurs, right? Like for me, my entrepreneur was, I don't go out, I don't shake a bunch of hands, but I personally provide an amazing level of service for our clients, right? So that they understand that I have their best interest in need, and hopefully that brings them back and gets me referrals, which historically it has. So that's how I generate business, but everyone does it differently, especially in this profession.
And talk a little bit more in detail of what you meant, what your firm does. We have a lot of students here listening in, other entrepreneurs listening in. I think there's always confusion. Everyone goes to a website and like, I do mergers and acquisitions, but like, what does that really mean? Or litigation, like kind of dive deeper into those definitions. And then also the niche that you go after. I'm assuming you don't go after everything under the sun. You might specifically go after certain ones when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, certain valuations of companies, for example.
Understood. Yeah. So I won't just say I draft contracts, right? I'm not sure that gets us to where we need to be. But as it relates to me, again, our firms are full service firms. So there's a lot of diversity there. But I think best to answer your question is what I do. So on the M&A side, we represent buyers and sellers. So on a buyer side, we're going to help with due diligence. We're going to help with the transactional documents. We're going to help with structuring, right? A lot of these deals, they come in, there's a tax analysis with respects to the most favorable tax structure. So we help with that. And we have tax partners in our firm. So generally I or one of my other senior partners are playing quarterback. We're saying, we need this tax partner to do this. We need the employment lawyer to look at this. And we kind of play project manager, as well as we help our clients negotiate key material deal terms. Right. So that's in the M&A side of it.
What size companies? Typically?
So it varies. We've done deals from 5 million to a couple $100 million.
So quite big deals.
Yeah. So, we do a lot in real estate too, particularly in the South Florida market. We represent quite a few developers that are acquiring, either existing operating properties or assets, or also those that are, vacant land to be developed.
And then any other specific niches like tech, for example, or yeah.
So real estate's a big one for us, and renewable energy are big. Those two are really big. We're very bullish on renewable energy. We think, with the ITC, which was recently passed, and the available credits, there's a lot of opportunity there for our clients.
And the other area that you seem to focus on is intellectual property.
Yes.
And talk about that a little bit, because that means a lot to entrepreneurs.
Of course.
Coming to another company and being acquired by a bigger company, perhaps, or two companies getting together. Talk about some of the issues that are involved there: patents, copyrights, trademarks, things like that.
Yeah. So the issues in an acquisition, depending on if you're on the buy side or the sell side, would really be, on the buy side is a diligence, right? You want to make sure that they have they own what they say they have, right? So it's just kind of doing, verifying their portfolio, and looking into it. Are there any potential claims for infringement or other third-party claims that could interfere with the ability for you to monetize as a buyer and utilize that intellectual property? But I think for entrepreneurs, the biggest thing on intellectual property is protecting it. And a lot of people don't always put that priority first. You know, a lot of founders that we work with that come to us, they always save that for later. And sometimes that's not the best way to handle things. Because, for example, with patents, you know, there's a certain amount of time that you have to file a patent once you start putting it to use, right? And again, you know, I'm not a patent specialist, but that's what our job is, you know, you said differentiates us is we're issue spotters, right? There's attorneys, I might not do everything, right, that my client needs from the legal profession, but if I can't spot an issue, I'm not doing my client the service they need, right? Because that's my job, is to spot issues.
And we know there's so many situations where things are overlooked.
Oh, all the time.
It's actually crazy. You know, I'm an entrepreneur myself, running a financial service company, now Owl App, and it just, the list goes on and on. There's things that I hear about all the time from other entrepreneurs, and really working with good experts is so powerful because they've been in those shoes before and they can spot things you never saw coming. Right. When I went and, you know, got a trademark for Owl, you know, they did this whole search thing, and then lots of people are cheap. They're like, oh, I can just do it myself. It's a 2-minute application. And I almost did. I'm like, well, is this kind of easy? I'm like, Owl, OWWLL. I'm like, there's not much out there spell like that. But then I'm like, no, let me just do it the right way. And I was in shock, right? How much work went into this, like the
clearance,
specific search tool that individual had that I didn't have, and how he showed me things on a graph and how detailed he got on the submission process. And I'm so happy I hired an attorney, because I didn't. I'm like, mine would never have looked like that, right? And everyone just goes right to, you know, AI technology, be like, well, AI technology could do that. It's like, but you cannot replace the human that has done it for 10 years straight, or 20 years or 30 years, and really, you know, where they could find certain things that come back one day to haunt you, right? Then all of a sudden you're in business and you went from 0 revenue to 20 million in revenue. And now all of a sudden you have more people knocking on your door and problems arise. So talk about those problems. Like, talk about real life situations where you've seen, obviously not details of clients that you can't share, but like where clients just were penny foolish, right? They went off, did stuff on their own, and then it came back on your desk because now they need you. Can you share like some real life situations?
Yeah, it happens quite frequently. I mean, a lot of the times it happens after the fact. In other words, it didn't happen with us. I mean, we're generally pretty, you know, when we're working with our clients, they're pretty comfortable at that point with our advice. But yeah, I mean, we've seen situations where there's business disputes between, you know, two joint venture partners that come together to form an entity. You know, we advise them, hey, you know, it's prudent to memorialize your things, right? Like, listen, no one expects to get divorced when they get married, but you know, it's a lot easier to go through a divorce if you plan for it before, right? So, and it's the same in a business context. You hope to have a successful business, but if things go wrong, having a good buy sell, which is essentially an agreement that if X or Y or Z happens, right, the other partner or partners have the ability to buy you out for a fixed price, right? Having those in place initially, this saves a lot of headache. One, often it avoids issues, right? So that's the biggest thing that we've seen, like in my field, is just business disputes between two partners that were, you know, all great and grand at the beginning, but you know, something goes wrong, they have a disagreement, they can't agree, it's 50-50, there's a deadlock. And how do you resolve that deadlock?
Yeah. Roland and I have seen this a lot, right? We have had close to 300 episodes here on the Shrimp Tank, and Roland, you would agree, you know, the amount of times, and Roland has a whole background with family business. This comes up more often in those, of course, and just extreme issues with business partners, right, Roland?
Sure, absolutely. I wanted to ask you a question, though, a little bit different. You have an undergrad degree in business and finance.
I do.
Yeah, I looked that up. And tell us if you use anything that you learned in your undergraduate degree in your current job, and if so, what would that be? What are the most important things you learned as an undergraduate that you're still using as a lawyer a few years later?
You outside the classroom or inside the classroom?
Both. That's because half the learning is outside the classroom.
Right. Yeah, I mean, outside the classroom was a lot of fun. But inside the classroom, you know, listen, looking at financial statements and being able to read them, you know, a lot of lawyers can't do that, right? And when you're dealing in the space that we deal in, those things come across your desk a lot in connection with, you know, preparing, you know, for private equity, preparing a private offering, right? Like a Reg D offering, which is exempt from registration with the Securities Exchange Commission. You know, you need to understand what that looks like and how it impacts, because you'd be surprised. We have a lot of business people that come to us and they'll present like a deck that they're going to go show investors, right? Which will help them put the legalese in there and the disclosures, and their modeling is off. Like they'll have mistakes in there and we'll flag them. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like your IRR, that doesn't make sense. Right. Like, so, that's probably one of the easiest things I can point to, but there's just plentiful. I mean, having a business degree, was the greatest decision of my life. Honestly, if I could do it over again, I probably would have gotten my legal degree and my master's in business, just because at the end of the day, there's nothing that you can't do with in my opinion, those two things combined.
Okay. We'll save the outside the classroom questions for the Plead the Fifth segment of our show.
And my last question for this segment, Chad, is just your schedule and adapting to your family's lifestyle, right? On our hobby and interest survey, you wrote family time, right? Which is very important, but a lot of lawyers really fail at that, right? They take on too much work. They work late hours. They're not good with systems. They're not good with time management. And of course, put your family first in many situations. It's hard, when you have a deadline and you're just overwhelmed. You have to get the work completed. So kind of explain your daily lifestyle.
All right. Well, first of all, I have a great team. So we're always there. We collaborate great. And that's essential. But listen, it's one of the hardest things that you do as a parent, right? Is the struggle that I have every day. I wake up every morning and I want to be the best dad, the best husband, right? The best person, right? And I also want to be a great colleague. And so, you're continually, torn in 100 different directions, and it's a struggle. So my day usually starts at 5. Today I started at 4 because I have a 4-month-old at home and she decided to wake up at 4. Okay. So, and my wife had a late night last night. So I woke up with the baby and fed her, put her back to bed, lay down for 30 more minutes and woke up and started my day. Made my son lunch because, I like to spend time with him in the morning because by the time he gets home from school, I'm entrenched in work. Right. And he understands that. He comes in, says hi to me. I'll usually work till 6:37, come out, eat real quick, bathe my son, put him to bed, maybe go back and do another hour of work and, try to, spend some time with my wife because that's important as well. And, probably go to bed at 10:30, 11, do it all over again.
Nice. And how far is your commute to your office?
It's a walk down the street or walk down the hallway. But
yeah. Well, Chad, that was a great answer right there. We're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from one of our sponsors. Then we get back. We're going to jump to our newest segment with the FAU students.
Join the fastest growing community of professionals on the internet with OWL. Access new networks and otherwise unreachable professional contacts through the one-on-one call feature on the app. Scroll through the list of available professionals and join them for a quick call to build rich connections, expand invaluable relationships, and to broaden your professional landscape without needing lofty referrals. OWL. We bring vetted pros to your doorstep 24/7 on demand. Join our community by signing up at owl.com today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. As you just heard from that commercial, that was the OWL app, and you can call our past guests one-on-one through it. We're the only podcast that I'm aware of where our guests, of course, give us some time in their schedule the week after for 30 minutes or more, and you could follow them on OWL. We're going to post them up on our Instagram account at Shrimp Tank Boca, and then get that opportunity to chat one-on-one about what they were talking about on today's episode. And of course, our students are going to call you as well, Chad. So be ready. One of these students in this room are likely going to call you next week. So, Chad, on this segment of the show, it's all about what's hot in business, of course. So I'm going to kick things off by letting one of the FAU students ask you a question. Go for it.
First of all, thanks for coming. Out of the 40 lawyers and 70 other staff that you have, are there people in your firm who didn't really have a desire to go to law school who are tremendously valuable to you in your everyday problems that you face?
That's a great question. Yeah, we couldn't do what we do without a lot of our paraprofessional, the paralegals, as well as the non-legal staff. I mean, so another thing that makes our firm interesting is we have a CEO. Not many firms do, particularly of our size. We have a director of operations, we have a vice president of finance, and we have a director of marketing. We have a creative director. All those people are instrumental. I could not do what I do without them. And I know anyone in our firm can do it without them because a law firm is a business, right? I mean, a lot of people don't see it that way. And the law firms that aren't successful are run like a law firm, not a business.
Is that hotter in law now to have a business structure? Is that something you see as yourself as unique, or do you think that's?
I mean, the only firms that we've seen do it are the AM 100 larger long firms. I mean, a firm with our size, I haven't met a firm that does it. So, I mean, and it's been instrumental. I mean, we doubled our size during COVID, and we're continuing to grow.
Okay, we have another FAU student's going to ask you a quick question.
Thank you for being here and being able to take our questions. You talked about staying ahead of trends and staying ahead of schedule, where maybe some other law firms aren't able to or aren't doing that. Do you see like a future trend where, you know, you want to get really ahead on it right now, or is that kind of an unpredictable thing?
That's a good question. I mean, artificial intelligence is definitely one. I mean, I know it's a hot topic. You know, it impacts both external forces, like, you know, areas in the law, whether it's intellectual property, whether it's our clients, etc. But there's also a lot of technology that we get pitched as lawyers every day that could definitely streamline what we do, right? Not everything that we do is necessarily, it doesn't require, you know, a 650 hour an hour attorney, right? So, you know, we're all about the efficiency. So, I mean, that's one thing that we generally, you know, we're continuing to explore. The issue with AI is there's ethical considerations with sharing information, et cetera. But if we could work through those, you know, that's definitely one thing that we're going to want to leverage, because again, the more that we can provide, the more value we can provide for our client at competitive and reasonable rates. That's what we're about. So
$6.50 an hour.
it's nothing, right?
A bargain.
Wow. I hope you're
A lot of
not
lawyers
billing
out
us
there that
here.
are 1,200 and 1,400.
Right.
I don't know.
That's because you're not working with me.
Let's talk about what's hot in the PR world, right? Some people love PR. Some people hate PR. I'm a believer it's about the right person behind the PR agency, right? So what's hot about PR these days? Because of course, you know, you believe in it.
Right. Hot as in specific subject matter, or
Just in general, like a lot of law firms do not, you know, do anything with PR firms, right? They kind of say, we don't need a PR firm. We can market on Instagram ourselves.
right.
We could run
No,
a podcast, right? Where others absolutely love PR firms. You know, a lot of our past guests have PR firms, and they know how to collaborate together with them. And obviously, it's a cost, but you know, some big things can come from PR firms.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of guests, you know, get the opportunity to be on the Shrimp Tank, right? You know, when PR firms reach out to us, of course, you know, we're like they've already been screened, right? They do a lot of the work for us on our end, and it's a great collaboration that we have with PR firms. PR firms get you on the news, right? They could, you know, help you build that one relationship that really made impact. It could have been with the NBA, the NFL, whatever it might be, or in the sector in real estate, in your case,
Right. Yeah. So I'm a big advocate. I mean, I think, you know, part of our strategies is content generation. I mean, in order to, you know, we're not the guys on the billboard that, you know, you call because 401 pain or an accident, etc. Right. We're the guys that get it's referrals, it's relationship, and it's being subject matter, you know, expertise. Right. So that's what, you know, one of the values that we feel, you know, PR firm allows us to leverage. They allow us to cast a wider net.
Okay. Where do most, when you say referrals, like, is it coming from existing?
A lot of existing clients, a lot of other service professionals. You know, we work with a lot of transactional accountants or CPAs. You know, we get a lot of referrals from them.
Cool. And we do have a student question actually online, because remember, there's 20 other students in the classroom right now.
Oh, nice.
Listening in. So we have Henry, and he says, as a small business owner, what advice would you give them to help them avoid some roadblocks in the future that most small business owners fail to do?
That's a good question. So, I mean, you know, if you have multiple partners, again, papering the relationship, making sure that you have an agreement among you and your other, you know, the other partners that dictate how the entity is going to be run, and, you know, voting rights, control, etc. You know, it is probably one of the most important things. And then just a lot of rudimentary things. Like a lot of people start businesses, they don't get the proper insurance, they don't get the proper, you know, local or state licenses. So, I mean, that's, you know, when working with an attorney, you know, it's valuable because they listen, the penalties may not be that bad, but it's one of those things you'd always rather be proactive and one step ahead. So, you know, it's just setting the proper groundwork and having the proper foundation, particularly for those small businesses that want to go raise outside capital at some point. The number one thing I tell every small business that ever has an expectation is, when you start, create a data room from day one. Break it up with all your folders and start saving today, because that you're going to need all those documents. And that's the number one issue we have with companies as they grow, is locating all that history of documents.
And I'll jump into this one as well. You know, the first thing is, you know, your logo. Don't waste so much time. Like, too often we have new entrepreneurs out there that spend months figuring out their perfect logo. It's like, just get moving, execute. The next is, be the same on all social platforms, right? Too often it's like one name on one platform because they could get it there, but they couldn't get it on another platform. And then it creates a mess in the future, right? So just pick a name that's easy to say. Don't get a name that's way too long. You see sometimes people say like a name that's like 6 different words. I'm like, we understand it's about like this beverage, like the best beverage in the world. Like that's the name. And you're like, no, like no one cares, right? Keep it simple. Like this is Celsius. Companies with 8 characters or less typically do better, and they're easier, when it comes off the tongue, and with social media, specifically with logos. And then it comes to, of course, teamwork, right? Lots of times you can't hire a team. You got to do everything yourself. So get the best technology that is inexpensive, free account on Zoom, free social handles, free website on Google, right? If you're a new entrepreneur, like you don't have to spend a fortune in those early days. You don't need business cards either anymore. Like you get Linktree or LinkedMe and, have a digital business card, and too much focus around a lot of the old school systems that cost a lot of money. Even cameras, everyone's like, but you have a podcast, dude. It's like, this camera is a podcast, right? You could literally just start filming people and go in person, like a $5 part that inserts, and you have perfect audio, right? So I just think too often people think too far in the future and start small. And then as you get larger, then you could start, hiring more talented individuals, or at least in the beginning stages, like you're saying, like the right LLC, or should it be an S Corp? Should it be in Delaware? Should it be in Florida?
Exactly.
Right. Things of that nature. And pick people's brains for free in the early days. Like go on apps like Owl, where people are a few dollars, and ask, because too often people don't ask. They try to do everything themselves. And they're like, oh, I wish I would have known. It's like, well, did you ask anyone? Did you go to Roland Kidwell and ask them? Did you go to the local SBA office and ask for tips? Because a lot of that stuff's free.
Right.
They do so much stuff. They do valuations for free.
The answers are always out there. You gotta look for them.
Yeah, I just want to bring up one thing. I was looking at a company called In-N-Out Burger. It's in California and 6 other states. And they decided very early that they did not want to pursue public offerings. They did not want to franchise. They wanted to focus on their business model. And they set up some trusts to make sure that family members could continue on into the future. So they have a 3rd generation owner right now. 2nd generation, one of them died in a plane crash. The other one died of a drug overdose. But they were able to use these trusts and legal documents to make sure the ownership stayed in the family into the 3rd generation. They're doing very well, very successful. And they've not, you get an In-N-Out Burger just only in 7 states. It's not like Five Guys or any of these others. So they really focused on their business model and their quality control. Have you had any family businesses try to set up that sort of thing to ensure continuity of the business as the next generation comes along?
Yeah, we worked with a number of clients. I mean, so our corporate department work in conjunction with our private wealth services department to plan, succession planning, but also asset protection planning as well. Setting up advantageous trust-based structures that provide tax advantages. Also, for those that exceed the lifetime exemption for gift taxes, right? So it's all part of the same strategy. But yeah, we've worked with clients that will do that. Typically that's with our estate team or our private wealth team, and then they'll work in conjunction with our corporate team because we'll do the transactional side of it and paper the corporate documents.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from one of our sponsors. When we get back, we're going to jump into Dr. Roland Kidwell's favorite part of this show, called Plead the Fifth.
Step into our state-of-the-art innovation lab and create your digital future. Oz uses cutting-edge technology and 22 years of industry knowledge to enhance customer experience through digital innovation in a variety of expertise. Oz is a leading global consulting company whose services and solutions are trusted by startup, midsize, and even Fortune 500 companies. Get to know more about Oz's Salus, a mobile solution bringing us back to max capacity, and their latest solution, Rainmaker, saving insurance companies years of work. To learn more about Oz and their exciting technologies, visit followoz.com. That's FOLLOWOZ.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. As a reminder, you can follow us at Shrimp Tank Boca on Instagram. Catch all these past episodes up on our website, shrimptankpodcast.com. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, reach out to our guests. They all love getting inquiries about what they talked about on today's show and always love giving back. So Chad, this segment of the show is called Plead the Fifth. You could only plead the fifth one time. right? So be careful, but you should be good at this. Being an attorney, you know how to get around questions quite easily. So I'm going to let Dr. Kidwell start things off because he thinks he's going to make you plead the fifth on the first
I don't
try.
know about that. Okay, Chad, tell us about the most troublesome client you've had. Identify who that is and what was the trouble with them.
It had to have been when my mom was selling her business.
What was the name of her business?
That usually makes sense. Family's always the biggest pain in the butt to work with.
It was Designing Success. It was a case interact management for us. Yeah, love my mom, smartest person ever. Great role model. They just, always working with family is never easy.
Well, do you think she would be willing to be in this?
Ooh. Case studies for family business for everyone listening out.
Tell me, Chad, have you ever had to plead the fifth?
No. I've never been subject to a deposition. Knock on wood. I've been taking them, but never been the other party to it.
What is the biggest public relations crisis that you've had to deal with? Tell us about that.
I had a client that was dealing with a mass malfunctioning product that ended up putting them into bankruptcy.
What happened?
Well, they had sold, unintentionally over 30,000 solar systems that included a well-known provider's products that was defective or allegedly defective, and it caused some meaningful issues with residential solar systems that caused them to not work. And a failure of that size on a company that does sales and installations with a smaller service department crippled them. And that's
we can all name that company too. That's not a secret because they're going to be on TV, right?
On TV.
Yeah.
I think we know who it is.
I think we know who it is.
He might have to plead the fifth.
Oh, yes.
Me and Roland has some
Yeah,
insight.
go ahead and plead the fifth, Chad.
That is true. He tells the story better than I do.
Legally, anyway, right?
Right.
Or ethically.
Well, I'll make him plead the fifth. That one didn't count. So, there's always that one attorney at the firm. You're like, you walk in, you're like, can't believe he's still here, right? You just, he's an annoyance. Maybe he brings in revenue, but you just don't like the vibe. Can you name that one attorney out of the 40 that you don't have an enjoyable experience with, or plead the fifth? You don't want to name him.
I mean, listen, honestly, this is no lie aside. I've been there for 8 years, and the people that are there, we have a motto, right? You want to get the right people on the bus and get the wrong people off the bus, and we've done a good job of that.
Okay, so let me rephrase that.
There is nobody right now.
You got no choice but to fire one attorney out of the 40. Name the one attorney you would have to fire or plead the fifth.
I would fire me.
He got around this.
Who did you already
He's
fire?
good. He's good. He's not pleading the fifth. He is not pleading the fifth, Roland.
Oh, yes.
I'm happy to. I'm giving you honest answers.
Yes.
So
Well, what's the name of the person you just fired? You've never fired anybody.
The person, me personally, so HR handles the firing.
Okay, HR.
Yeah.
Oh, HR.
Yeah. I stay out of that. I handle with the growth operation. So they actually call me the chief happiness officer of the firm.
I got one more because it says here you do internal investigations, audits, and responses about governmental administrative agencies. So have you investigated a corrupt government agency?
No, not corrupt government. So we've represented clients in connection with FTC investigations.
Oh, they're the corrupt.
They're not necessarily corrupt. So one of the things that I do that I aside from doing the corporate M&A work is a lot of marketing. So telemarketing work. So we'll work with a lot of lead generators that do telemarketing. So, that can be a troublesome business sometimes just because you get in trouble with the, government agencies for making telemarketing calls.
So you're very good at dodging the issue.
Okay.
But that's good. And I think you're very honest and trustworthy too.
I appreciate
So you shouldn't have to plead the fifth. Jason, let me ask you a question. You can play. No, he's
gonna get me to plead the fifth. That's not the point of the show, Roland.
I
get the guess.
I get it.
Okay, he's not pleading.
Nah, he doesn't have to.
Well, Chad, thank you for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank today. For audience listening, they want to get in touch with you, your company. What are the best routes?
They can email me. They can call me. They can send me LinkedIn, whatever they want. I'm always available.
Awesome. For everyone listening, we're going to put that all on the show notes. So just go ahead and click the episode. And he said it. Reach right out to him over email. So if anything is on your mind, connect with him. And of course, gain some knowledge in more detail about what we spoke about during today's episode. Okay, we'll be back next week right around 1 p.m. Take care, everybody.
Like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it take a swim on the